All right, good morning, everyone in Canada, and good evening to those of you in Europe. I'm Shep Steiner, Associate Professor of Modern and Contemporary Art and Theory at the School of Art at the University of Manitoba and editor of the journal Mosaic. Thank you for joining us for this lecture by Saâdane Afif, who you see beside me, perhaps. This is part of a series of 8 hybrid events Mosaic will be hosting in the next months titled Suicide Ecocides, Untangling Futurity from Out of the Worst. You see that behind me. The presentation today follows on lectures by Dr. Michael Marder and Dr. Gary Sherbert, who visited us here in Winnipeg, and continues in the new year with presentations by Alan Clayson, Doctors Andrei Varminsky, Michael Krimper, and Banu Bargu. And I would remind you that the University of Manitoba campuses and research spaces are located on original lands of Anishinaabe, Ininewak, Assinininewak, Dakota Ayat, Dene, and Inuit, and on the national homelands of the Red River Métis. Recognizes that the treaties signed on these lands are a lifelong, enduring relationship, and we are dedicated to upholding their spirit and intent. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and the present. With this understanding, we commit to supporting Indigenous excellence through active reconciliation, meaningful change, and the creation of an environment where everyone can thrive. Our collaboration with Indigenous communities is grounded in respect and reciprocity, and this guides how we move forward as an institution. I would also like to acknowledge our sponsors, the University of Manitoba Conference Sponsorship Program and the School of Art specifically, as well as the Distinguished Speakers Program, Faculty of Graduate Studies, the Departments of Religion, Sociology, Political Science, History, and the Institute of the Humanities. Finally, I would like to acknowledge Saâdane Afif himself, as the origins of the lecture series emerged out of an idea partly suggested to me by him a couple of years ago. His idea was that I do a special issue of Mosaic on suicides. But given the way Afif works, given his alter ego, Yasmine, who emerged from his practice and works beside him, especially on projects of a curatorial nature, it might not have been Saâdane Afif who made the suggestion after all. Working collaboratively has always been important to this artist, and it would seem that giving a second self the space to work within the self is part of a development of this. I see it relating to his unique purchase on performance, to the philosophical problem of suicide as Albert Camus theorizes it, and as Afif himself reminded me of, and to Afif's propensity to variously disappear in his works behind any number of proxies, substitutes, or heteronyms. For instance, at a musical performance Afif staged in Geneva in 2024 that I did attend, he remained in the shadows while 2 sound artists stole the show. In the Fountain Archive, which is an early work that he received the prestigious Marcel Duchamp Prize for, and which I saw at MACBA in Barcelona, the artist is only present as the ever vigilant eye behind a large accumulation of references to Marcel Duchamp's Fountain. And in Black Chords, a sound installation with Fender Stratocasters that I saw at Documenta 12 in 2007, the first work I saw of Saâdane's, the ultra-slow pace of the chords being hit were straining so hard to be music, one just didn't bother about who made the work. It was enough just to chase the power chord being played at any one instant. In all of these senses, Afif's practice edges toward the threshold between inside and outside, a kind of collective making, and something of an ecstatic temporality that is ultimately an ethical move. In Afif's work, the lyric voice, which is so central to subjective interiority, is pushed into the vicinity of the other and recast as exteriority. His practice, which touches upon the exhibition as medium and ranges from curating to music, ceramics, poster design, craft, book design, sculpture, and performance, presents the picture of a very complex artist in dialogue with key trends in French theory. His exhibition 5 Preludes at the Hamburger Bahnhof in Berlin will open December 11th. Please welcome Saâdane Afif.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this great presentation. Oh, there's something flying here. Thank you. Shepard, I'm extremely honored to be with you now. I hope you tell me if there are any problem with my voice, or if you don't understand something. My English is okay, but my accent sometimes is extremely French. So, and sometimes I'm looking for my words, something like that. So I hope it will be okay. As Shepard told you, it's quite funny because, funny. I mean, the subject is serious. I mean, it's not funny subject, but as well, it's interesting because I put this subject on the table during a conversation with Shepard a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I don't remember. Yeah, in Geneva, as you say. I do remember that you were at first glance, a bit scared about these things I put on the table like that. And you were like wondering, oh, is that something really we can deal with, this subject, something like that? I have to tell you that me too, of course, I feel it's a heavy subject to go through. The thing is, for me, it's belonging to a much more larger topic that I'm working on more and more with my partner, Yasmine, which is a half fictional person or half real character, as you wish, that I developed to be able to face more curatorial and research projects, which are every time a bit blurry for the art world as an artist to say, okay, this is as well for me an artwork, a curatorial development. So through her, I can really easily engage some research in the curatorial field or in the historical field, etc. And then after the experience of Bergen Assembly that I will introduce you today, I was wondering, it was extremely exciting for me as an artist to find a way to develop an artwork which is finally exhibiting other people in such a context of a biennale, or let's say an art festival. And it bring me to a reflection of trying to find something, to find a subject, to find a topic where I can gather a lot of different kind of practice, but as well a lot of different kind of, let's say, political claim, different kind of, like to try to put, you say my work is complex, for instance, Shepard, but I humbly say my work is complex as a human being, you know? Okay. It's so to try to gather this complexity of humanity, of this diversity of humanity in one framework, and I starting to work and develop a research, a very first degree research at first time on gravity and art. The gravity. What we are all experimenting, gravity is something we're all touched by gravity, etc., etc. And it goes from, for instance, the Bruegel, the Icarus from Bruegel, where you see this poor Icarus fell down in the bottom right of the picture, where when all the people on the picture don't care about him, which is, in my opinion, a good image of what's happened today with the global warming and all these things. Really like something like we are kind of Icarus now. Our humanity is kind of Icarus, fall down, and nobody care about what's. It's something I like as well for that. I mean, and it's going to, for instance, just to give you 2 points of reflections. For instance, Jackson Pollock with the dripping, which is absolutely something about gravity. We cannot make dripping without gravity. So from that point to another, there are a lot of things. And of course, when I was thinking of, now I just opened recently a center of gravity with a foundation here, like a Hoffman Foundation, support the project, and they open an office in there, like it's a Sammlung Hoffman, it's a very good collection. And they open an office in their building dedicated to this project, and they hire a co-researcher with me to develop that. And so now we're starting to try to develop the possibility of an exhibition. I say half joking that I would like to make the documenta with. Probably I won't be able to do that, but anyway. And for instance, I'm thinking by section and suicide, because my idea of gravity, this idea of gravity that I want to develop, is of course a metaphoric. It's gravity touch every human, of course, but as well for me it's a metaphor, a metaphorical topic. Will help me to transcribe, to say something about what I feel about the world surrounding me. And I'm using gravity on the 2 acceptation of the term. Gravity is grave as well as about something serious. But of course, as well in English, it's a grave, like the end, you know, the hole where we will be all buried. So so I'm using this gravity idea. Of course, the gravity about the weight of the time, the weight of what we can feel of the time today, but as well, it's as well a recipient where I can share this recipient. I think with the really complexity of human being, because everybody is touched by this gravity action. So suicide for me, one small part of this main project, like suicide section, because of course, because of Sisyphus and Albert Camus, and this method of Sisyphus with this stone, river falling down, river. It's of course a lot to see with gravity as well, and as well about the image of suicide itself, hanging people throw themselves by the window, etc., etc. So I was interested by this kind of first degree image as well of the three sides. Right? I mean, and idea as well of the body falling, you know, with the death, etc., etc. And everything's we permanently struggle against gravity to try to be stand up, to be, and when we let it go, when we get to commit suicide, when we etc., etc., the things are collapsing, you know, the things are falling down, and that's why suicide. But when talking with Shepherd recently about what you're doing right now all together, your symposium around this question, I wanted to introduce myself and to show you more this, how can I say that, this prequel, like this biennale, this triennale I developed and lead me to these questions of today. So I want to show you the step before, but by thinking and talking a bit to prepare this with Shepherd, I noticed as well, of course, that there's something interesting, because in this practice, there is as well a kind of, that the word, I don't know how to say it, it's not dissolving, but it's diluted of the self in this idea as well. I don't know if the diluted of the self is a kind of suicide, but at least that will lead me to this question that you were talking about just before, about this question of perception of artworks, And this question of it's a collective actions, of course, there's this interesting, extremely, everybody knows that probably, but when Duchamp say it's the viewer, I'm jumping from that to that, but you will understand, I hope, why. But when Duchamp say is the viewer who is making the pictures, it's incredible because there as well an idea of dilution of the authorship, or at least sharing of the authorship with the people who look at the work, which is extremely interesting. I mean, to have this idea of that the artist let the work in front of him, and looking at the work is part of making the work. And this is shared by the community of people who will integrate this work in their own society. It's extremely, I don't know, it's extremely, there's something as well of this separation of the self for that, in my opinion. Even if art world is about fame now and things like that, but there as well. Anyway, that's what I want, the way I wanted to introduce what I will show you now. So now I will show you images that I will comment. It's half an hour story, I think. I will try to make, and after we can have a Q&A if you want, or something like that, the way you want to do it. Okay? So
Great.
now let me share this. The sound is okay for everyone? Yeah? More or less?
Yes.
Perfect. So let me share the screen. I think this is this one. Yes. Okay, you see now enter full screen mode. Okay. Just I cannot see you, so can you just let me know, Shep? You see the green right now, the green poster?
Yes. Yes, we do. Yes,
okay,
we do.
Good. Because I'm starting without seeing anything about the Zoom thing, so I see the same things you're seeing right now. So if there are any things going wrong, please let me know. Ring, or I don't know, tell me. Okay. So we are going back in 2014 in Marrakech, where I have been invited to a biennale. It was the 5th biennale of Marrakech. As often when I'm invited for this kind of thing, I did few months before a site-specific visit. I didn't know that city at that time. Now I know it quite well, but at that time it was my first time. And when I arrived, I've been amazed by one of the biggest attraction of the city. This is the square Jema Elfna. You can see the name on the top of this poster. It's a very big square, a former caravanserai, which is used now by I don't know who called those people in English. Like every people come with tricks, you know, like you have storyteller, acrobat, musician, fortune tellers. A lot of people are on this square making some tour, and the audience is making some circle around. So it's look a bit, there are not so much public light. So the square, and there are some food things around with smoke. So the square at night is really like the entertainment place of the city. And as well, it's look a bit like a moon with like some crater, you know, like all over, where in the middle of all this crater, there's someone making something. And I noticed that, and I was extremely intrigued, and I offer a little scenario to the director, to the curator of the biennale, and I ask them if they can find a professor of geometry, a teacher of geometry, to give some class like the acrobat is making his acrobacy, or like the storyteller is telling story in the middle of the square every evening without my name under his, just like to put him really into the realm. And so we find a professor, his name is Ahmed La Attabi, and I, I asked him to give some class on the square, and it was absolutely fantastic. So he spent the months or the weeks, I don't remember how many weeks of the months, like we're more or less a month of the Biennale, every day on the square, giving a half an hour class on basic elementary geometry. We defined with him 7 different courses of half an hour, and after a week he looped. And the reaction of people was extremely, extremely interesting. And there were a lot of people following. And I call it souvenir, la leçon de géométrie, the geometry class. So I will show you some of the images. I give him a flipboard. And so you see a piece of this flipboard on these images. And he starts. And people were extremely intrigued by what's happened. And the guy was extremely good as well, performer. He was a real professor, but as well a very good performer. So it works very, very well. And I had a little perverse things on it that I give him some souvenir to sell after the class, because in Marrakech, it's a very touristic place and a lot of things about souvenir. So I prepare some little pieces, some little form, geometric solid forms that I put on a plastic with, I signed them with a little certificate. And at the end of the class, he was selling that for €1, you know. And it was quite funny because it gave something about, it gave an idea about what give value to art, you know, because most of the people, they were, wow, how we can sell this kind of things, you know, like it's just a professor of geometry and he's selling things. What is the deal? They don't understand, you know. And because there were a lot of different kind of level of looking at, there were the people from the Biennale who knew that something happened there. But most of the people who encounter Hamed when he was making these lectures, they didn't know that it was for the Biennale. So they were facing a real prof of geometry, which was quite subversive because we had a lot of problem with the police. We have the problem with the brother, Muslim brother, because when you touch on geometry in the Muslim world, you touch to God. So they were wondering, what is it about? The police, of course, it's extremely subversive to give free knowledge in the street, you know. So, and after the people as well were making their own comments, and they were as well educated people from the cities, but as well people coming from the mountain who have never seen a class. They were extremely attentive, extremely curious about that. So it was a lot of different kind of level of looking at. It was absolutely extraordinary moment, I would say. I can say it is not to say my work is good. It's to say I just made this scenario, and I was as well part of the public, and I was extremely amazed by the way it was working. What I wanted to put myself on it, why geometry in Jamaifna Square in Morocco? First, Morocco bet on tourism. So it was not so bad bet in a way, even if it's a bit too much sometimes, but it preserved, it keep a lot of craftsmanship, you know, like, so there are a lot of know-how, like knowledge who have been preserved because of that, or thanks to that. It's been like most of the people around dealing with geometry, like all the workers, carpenters, tailors, something, they're all dealing with geometry. There are, of course, as I told you just before, there is this relation in between geometry and iconoclasm. Of course, the Muslim doesn't represent the face of God or God, and by extension, human. So there are all this ornamentation will become something extremely important, and as well the calligraphy of the walls. So there is this extremely strong relation in between God and geometry. And so as an artist, I play a bit the mirror here. I'm mirroring a bit what I'm looking around as when I make something into the context, in situ, as would say uh, Daniel Buren. But as well as an educated artist in Western, with this idea of ready-made in my mind and all these things, I came with geometry as well as the, let's say, the ultimate ready-made, because the geometry is the mother of all the forms. So through geometry, you can touch any kind of form in a way. So it was a mix in between those kind of things. But at the end, it's creating this kind of theatrical class. We were very on the verge of the fictions and the reality in the things, in the framework of the square, which was extremely interesting for me. And so this is the act one in a way. So I show you a couple of other. Oh, sorry for that. Couple of other pictures. So you see that people making a little circle around Hamed, and I get after the Biennale, they send me the drawing of the geometry class. So the first thing I did with those drawing, it was before thinking about the following of the things that I want to talk to you about. It's some carpets. I met during my stay in Marrakech one of the best carpet maker in the tradition of the Beni Waran, which is one of the tradition of carpet. There are a lot. They are one by tribe in a way. And I give him the drawing of the class of geometry I've been made in Jamaefna to become the pattern or the motif of some of this traditional carpet. But it was more like a, a little test or something like that. But what I had in mind at that moment and was much more important for me is I wanted to question. This is a very old question for you, probably, as people working in academy. I wanted to question the the question. The question is the question of perception. The question is how finally a work of art, a performance, or whatever kind of things made in the field of art, how it can change the perception of the people who have been witness of it, or the viewers, how it can change their perception on the reality surrounding them. The question was, does such a performance in Jamaica Square could have changed something in the mind of the user of the square or the people who have been witness of it, which is probably something it's a question old like probably the philosophy of art. I mean, no? It's not new, but I didn't want it to use it to use to to take this question through an academic way. I wanted to take it through a more sensitive way, and I wanted to put it into a fiction, like to put this question into a fiction. And so I had this idea, because probably something I should have told you before is for years, for more than 20 years, every work I'm doing, every single work I'm doing, I'm asking people around me to write songs about it. So I have a kind of habit about commissioning text, specific text on the work I'm doing. And this, when I did this one, I had already this experiment. So it was quite easy to have this thinking. And I decided to commission a theater play, a script for a theater play, because I wanted to. It says that to question the idea was to question the language as something could be ornamental. Um, this is one of the carpet. You can see the very well. It's very well done actually. And of course, the carpet is like pixel. There are a lot of things like working quite well in this kind of things. Anyway, so I call a French writer. His name is Thomas Claire. Sorry, I have to drink a bit. Okay. I call a French writer. His name is Thomas Claire, and I ask him, okay, once upon a time, a professor of geometry arrived in Jamaïfna Square, starting to give classes there. After a few weeks, he was there. People around starting to develop a very weird language. Let's say a geometrical language. Some have been witness on the corner of the street next door, next the square, of conversation of a high level of abstractions. Can you make me something about that? I wanted to use the idea of this fiction on the play and this text. I have this idea of, I can commission this text coming from my work or from this performance to have a base to develop a bunch of exhibitions. That was my goal. But as well, through this text, to extend, of course, the idea of this performance, but as well to question the way this performance, or at least to fictionalize the way this performance could have an effect on the people surrounding it or the people who have been witness of it. So at that point, I just make the commission. I don't know what I will have, and when I call Thomas Claire, he say, "Okay, I do it." So I say, "Okay, I bring you in Jamaïfna. I show you Marrakech. I show you the Marrakech I know. I show you some of the character because there are like some people really like I don't know. They are like, for instance, the storyteller you can find on Jamaïfna Square or the fortune teller you can find there. They are very, very typical. They're immediately a character. So I tell him I show you some personage of the square that could be used maybe on the play. And we bump in the Museum of the Photography. This is anecdotic for the moment, but it will come back, you will see. We bump on the Museum of Photography, we bump on this image. I don't have the image, I'm sorry. It's an image of young Arabic woman playing billard in the 30s. Her name is Yasmine Douezan. So I let it go like that, and when I get back to Berlin, I make my research and I discover the life of Yasmine Douezan, first female champion of French billard, not in 51 but in the 30s. There were a mistake on this caption. So I call immediately Thomas Claire and I ask him if he can introduce, if he can put as well this Yasmine Douezan or this Yasmine in the play he will write for me. And he say yes. So, okay. But at that very moment, I don't know what I will receive. I have no idea of the quality of the text. I have no idea. I just know that I want a play. I want some characters, different characters, and dialogue. And I want to use this text after for other things. This is all what I know, but I have absolutely no idea of what I will have. The commission is well articulated, but after, of course, now it's the space of the imaginary of Thomas Claire that I don't know what he will do. And 3 months after, I received this super good little text. It's calling the Heptahedron. So Heptahedron is a solid body with 7 faces. The one you know by for sure is the typical Occidental Western idea of a house, like the very base shape of a house is 7 faces. It's like a prism, like as well. So the play is named the Heptahedron. And on this play, we have a character, a main character, Her name is Yasmine. And this Yasmine, she's looking for a heptahedron, a form with 7 faces then. And to find this heptahedron, she encountered 7 characters, which are a professor, a bonimentor, which is a huckster, a moped rider, a fortune teller, a coalman, an acrobat, and a tourist. So she makes this quest to find this heptahedron, and she, of course, it's a metaphor, she encountered the 7th face represented by this 7 character. And as we will see after, at the end, she's disappearing to become the heptahedron itself with the 7 character, which is, in a way, the first dissolution, okay, of the character of Yasmine. Here, maybe I should make a point about this Yasmine. So first we have the Yasmine Douezane, which is, there are 3 Yasmine, by the way. Huh? There are the first Yasmine Douezane, which is the real character who crossed the last century. She was born in 1910 and she died around 95, if I don't remember well. That's the first one. The second Yasmine is the Yasmine, no point. She is one of the character of this play. And the third Yasmine is the one we will come after in the Bergen Assembly, which is the one I'm working with now, Yasmine Do. Point. Okay. Voilà. We have we have the character of the play, Yasmine looking for the heptahedron through the 7 characters. That's some heptahedron, just for the people who don't know that. I mean, some classic one. Anyway, this is a heptahedron as well. This is the form I give to the heptahedron myself because I need it as well. Because as probably most of you, I didn't know what was an heptahedron before having this title on my table. Okay, so as I told you, from the text, I decided to I wanted to make a bunch of exhibition. My idea was to make exhibition based on the character of the text. So of course, the main character, this Yasmine Douezane, I made the first exhibition about her. So I confronted the Yasmine Douezane of the text, the Yasmine Douezane fiction, with the real Yasmine Douezane. And I made for 6 months a lot of research about her real life. And by chance, because she was not super famous, but famous enough because of the sport, and as well a relation. She has a relation with a guy named Vincent Scotto. And Vincent Scotto was, for instance, the guys making music for Josephine Baker. Probably you know old Josephine Baker. Maybe not Tino Rossi, but Josephine Baker, I'm quite sure. And she was on this kind of show business and sport. So there are some newspapers, some things. So I find quite a lot of things of her life, and I make an installation, and the form of this installation is an exhibition about her life. To be precise, I exhibit an exhibition as an artist. I hope it's clear, this thing. It's really like, I'm not making an exhibition on Yasmine Douezane. I make an installation, which is an exhibition on Yasmine Douezane. So we make 3 parts about her life. Like one is where she's coming from, because I was extremely interested as well. I won't develop too much on that because it's a lot of anecdote, but I'm half Algerian, half French, and she was half Moroccan, half French. So I started to identify, of course, myself, but it was as well very interesting with this dual heritage for me to question this duality through her. But it's other things, I mean, it's like a hypertext, in my opinion. So we have like here, for instance, they were, at that time, we were exotized people, huh? And she was playing with that. I mean, she was not she was as well very good to manipulate these things. She understood it quite well. Very early, you can see it by the way she's answering to a newspaper and things like that. And she make pictures in traditional Moroccan clothes in the cover of the most famous beer magazine of the time. So that this section was about beer. It's really like an exhibit, yeah, really an exhibition. So the first thing I did. The second thing I did is I have some friends in Berlin calling Star Styling. They are like a fashion designer, and I convinced them to make one of their collection based on the character of the play. My idea was I didn't want it to make costume. I wanted to make this existing on a real field of economy, which is not an economy of art, but which is an economy of fashion. But having this seven character represented through these clothes, and the people, real people like us, they will buy those clothes and they will become, in a way, one of the actors giving life to this character. But funny enough, like so, they make the seven character clothes in it was the autumn winter 1920, so it's already 5 years old. And we have the acrobat, the fortune teller, etc. It was real. I mean, it's not a performance. It's not like it was real. They make business with. They even make the money with. I didn't touch of the money. I just wanted this to do exist in another field of economy than my own field as an artist. And so we have the professor, which is based on the famous pictures here from the sorry, I have memory gap. It will come back. George Gross. It's a self-portrait of George Gross. We have the huckster trying to sell you things, Muppet Rider, the fortune teller with his scarf, past, present, future, the coalman. It's a coal mine. Is the son of the people there, of the artist. It's a coal mine for Bergen. We have Bergen in Berlin. What's one of the most famous clubs in the world. This kind of coal mine can be very fitting very well with Bergen. Acrobat, the tourist. We can see after that in some lecture appear some of the I'm trying to continue to question this. Where is the fiction? Where is the where I'm trying to, and I continue to mix. So it was a lecture I was doing on the same subject than today for you, where one of the characters appear and starting to ask us question about it himself. So we had to answer. Well, it was kind of And this is a picture I took 6 months ago in the theater, and that I really like. It's exactly what I wanted to. This is some of this garment made by those fashion designer. So now 5 years ago, and the guys was wearing them, the acrobat one, in this theater out of the blue. So that means those characters through this collection does exist now, sometimes, somewhere. And this is exactly what I wanted. And again, this is a way to twist a little bit the reality surrounding me as an artist by what I'm doing. Then appear just a little bit before COVID, by chance, because otherwise I would be, I don't know where. The people of Bergen Assembly hire me. Bergen Assembly is a kind of triennial art festival triennial in Bergen. And they hire me to be the convener that I translate by artistic director, let's say. And so that was, I think, like really like few weeks before COVID. And the question is, was for me, of course, what I can do for that, because it was absolutely open. I can do whatever I want. I was hired as artistic director for this kind of triennale, so I can do exactly what I do. They say you do the way you want, you do what you want. So it was extremely open. They got a serious budget, not super good budget, but serious enough to make something. Well, it's a little rich city. I mean Bergen. And so I was like, what I can do. Of course, it was difficult for me to put under bracket my work completely. I cannot become completely a curator, but as well, this curatorial question is in the heart of my work for long. So even I'm self-curating my work for long. That's why probably they hire me because they knew that, etc., etc. And so I turned around a lot of ideas, and of course, I had under my elbow, I had the play, and I say, okay, that's what I will do. So I offer them to use the structure of the play, to use it to build the curatorial concept of the triennale. What I mean the structure, I mean because I put the text out, and as I told you, I wanted to make a bunch of exhibition. I say myself, why not a triennale, and why not other artists and not me? And so I use just the structure, the elementary structure of the play. I mean by that the quest, the idea of the quest, the main character, Yasmine, and the seven other characters. And the idea was, in a way, to stage the play and really to stage it, but and completely another way of staging on a theater. It was like I asked them to have 7 venues, one by character. For each venue, I selected 3 artists, of the work of 3 artists, because first I'm thinking by work and not by artist or by practice, let's say sometimes. And the idea was this trio of artists will give a complexity to those characters, and as well they will be their work will be the actor who will give life to those characters. So I have 7 venues, 3 artists by venue, and so the city become the stage, the work become the characters, or the work become the actors. We give shape to these characters, we give soul to this character, and the main work, the main position, the very important, the very important role on display, so one of Yasmine, was given to the audience, to the viewer. So the viewer can re-experiment and remake the play by visiting the 7 venues, so encounter the 7 characters, and what is remaining, or what was remaining on their mind is the heptahedron. And that was in a way, to stage as well the mechanic of perception, how we look at things, how we build in our own consciousness an object of what we look at, etc., etc. So that was my idea. So from that, it was a long journey to do, but it was extremely joyful. And I immediately thought, before starting all the things, to work with Yasmine Do. So this third Yasmine, who helped me as well to put a bit of distance, because as an artist, to be curator is not so easy, and the curator has a role a bit weird sometimes about power and things like that. So with Yasmine, she makes this kind of interface as well, and helped me a lot to develop as well different kind of aspects of a practice that I cannot necessarily put on the table myself. So what we did during the 2 years of preparation, because it's a triennale, and by chance it was, by chance and not by chance, because of course I'm working a lot by conversation, by talking with people, and here I was missing a lot of that, but by chance we had computer and mail, something like that. But I decided to develop a magazine that we called Side magazine, Side, like for each side of the things. And this magazine was dedicated to each character. So this one is the professor, of course, Mr. Boyce. And the magazine was in between a reader, and we commissioned some text sometimes. And it's through the editorial, Yasmine do give directions to what would be our interpretation of this character to make them become an exhibition. So we had the chance to be able to develop. It was a huge work because we developed that finally in 1 year and a half. 7 magazine is quite crazy things, but we did it because it was extremely joyful as well to do. And so I show you, for instance, like on this one of the first one we did. So I work closely with graphic designer from the very beginning. It was very important as well to have the trust of graphic designer that I can really direct as well, and they were extremely cool with that. And so we for instance, as the magazine was supposed to be a sketch of what will happen, we really sketched the magazine. It's just some paper. It's folded like a real magazine, but it's only very very thin paper. And we sketch as well some faces to give a face to those possible characters. It was more like to I would say that to give them yeah, to personify them, to give them personification, to use but of course it was as well, the magazine was as well a trainer for us, like to test the possible visual identity. It was extremely interesting object to work with, and for me as an artist, the magazine was probably, because I didn't show my work there, of course, I show only others, but I use my work and the structure of my work on display to create this space for the others. But the magazine as well become for me an artwork, a real, which is extremely difficult to deal. For instance, I have galleries, like commercial galleries, as an artist, and when I explain them that, they don't understand it. I mean, it's too, I don't know, this too, it's not, it's out of this idea of object and market for art and things like that. But for me, it's a real work. I mean, it's a real art. It's an artwork. If you got the box, you have a real work of me. Maybe something we can discuss later. Anyway, so I show you. Yeah, voilà. This is the way we were communicating. The first issue of Science Magazine is dedicated to the figure of the professor. It features 7 articles, each of which explores the identity, role, and position of the professor. So we have 7, we have like a sommaire. Your Geyser makes something about this self-portrait of your Gross. We come, yeah, you know, it's as well, there are a lot of things looping. Yeah? As well, it's an interweaving way of storytelling. Of course, we're starting in Marrakech. We arrive in Bergen in the north. What I was extremely interested as well is by this idea from Marrakech, continue to live through and live through those development, but as well, I like this idea by encounter new context, grew up and develop itself, and as well hybrid itself in other form, you know. But this is the same small idea of having these geometrical things in this performance. We're starting to grow, and so we were starting to create a magazine which was interweaving in between story from Bergen, story from Marrakech, my own story, my own way of showing things with Yasmine Do, etc., etc. And so we work a lot with free associations as well. It's not academic, but as well through the article, when we were working with people like your guys, we make a real precise academic text. So it was a mix of a lot of things, like really interweaving. So here we have text about this portrait of George Gross, which is for me extremely important because he made it in 27. As you see, he's warning people around him. At that time, we are on the rise of Nazism in Germany. So, and George Gross will leave few years after for New York. So it's an incredible picture. It's in the Berlinische Gallery in Berlin. And so, yeah, okay, bon. That's we met every time. The second one is about the Moped Rider, and it's Sophical. So the moped rider say, what are you hiding under your helmet, dear moped rider? Where will your wandering lead you, and what encounter might they bring? So it's really about that. We have the huckster body monter, which is Jeff Koons, coming from the French word bonir, to tell story in a nice way. Their speech is often exaggerated and aims to please, convince, and seduce, illusionary tricks often used as a means to an end. This is the definition of bonimenteur in French, which have no equivalent exact in English. That we use, we keep the bonimenteur because it's a beautiful word, but we give this definition. Yeah. We have Okorafor Nady, she's a sci-fi writer for mostly teenager. So we give her the role of, we use her face, a drawing of her face, not her face, a drawing of, which is a bit different, attention, to represent the fortune teller. And fortune teller say, dive in, fortune teller, what do the cards say today? Won't you fill the void of our hypothetical futures? Sorry for that. Then we have the Coleman, represented by Janis Kounellis, of course, very important arte povera artist who work a lot with coal. It's a bit first degree, but as well he got such a good face of Coleman. And Coleman, which stories are hidden beneath the burden you carry, bending your body like a fragile blade of grass under the morning dew? This is some sentence are taken out of context, but they are inside each of this editorial. And we have the tourist. That's an interesting thing. You probably recognize him. His name is Hans Ulrich Obrist. He was not so happy that to be a tourist, but anyway, he is a tourist. So the tourists were dedicated to the curator as well, because I think there are relations between tourism and curating in a way, but that's something personal. So dear tourists, what have you brought back from your wonderful travel? Which memories are spinning under your bucket hat? And we have the acrobat. The acrobat will give more direction about fluid, let's say you have not fluid gender, but fluid personality, like people who can be in different kind of hybridation or mutation. And so we use Katharina Sieverding as a face of that, which is an important German photographer still working today. But the name of course, the name of I give you the name in the lecture, but we never give the name of the people represented on the cover. And even in the magazine, you cannot see those names. Because this is a drawing, this is not a photo. And we play a lot on this, we can recognize or not, etc., etc. So, voila. And so we arrive in the Bergen assembly, like in Bergen, so 2022. So you see that the graphic designer we work with, we use the work made, the work developed through the magazine to become the visual identity of the work, of the triennale. So we are, for instance, at the school, we had a space in the school, and we set up the professor at the school, of course. This is our school of Bergen, art school of Bergen. Yeah? So we show another exhibition on panel because I wanted to show the real one, but it was not possible to get this. So I decided, okay, better to have something. So for education, we make a panel exhibition on George Gross. That's a work by Lily Renaud. I'm going fast on this because it's more like for you to have an idea of So we had the Bergen Kunsthal where we put the bonimenteur. So in the bonimenteur, I use as well the work of the graphic designer that I invite inside the triennale because the graphic design is as well about Huxting or boniment. So it was a way as well to present the work have been done with those graphic designers, with a painter, and with some very young artists. They were the youngest, from some of the youngest artists making these big light things. The Moped Rider. So you can see as well, like using this poster, have been glued with the face and thus creating this visual identity of the Biennale, Triennale, like voila, some other works. I won't give you all, like, it's more like to give you an impression of what it is. Because we produce a eighth magazine, which is a special issue after the opening of the Biennale with pictures of the Biennale, which is so. And after I made a box. Maybe there are pictures of that. Coleman. So this is the acrobat about this fluid identity. So I found an artist who can be free for that, which was quite convenient. The tourist, Dominique Gonzalez Foster, Daniel Buren. Daniel Buren was the oldest, and Sol Calero. And voila, this is the box. At the end, we put all this magazine in a box. So the Heptahedron, and you can see all the magazine, special edition, and after concept Saâdane Afif, conducted by Yasmine. So the big one is the special issue. Yeah. And this is a portrait of Yasmine. And there's still a website. And that's, yeah, something else. Okay. I'm back. Voila. I show you what I wanted to show you. I mean, so this is what's happened a bit before my new field of research around gravity, but in the same term, using gravity, I won't say, yeah, it's more part of a fiction or a way of, we can say that. Of course, it's a very scientific, serious subject, and we can approach it with very academic, serious way as well. But me, I'm still taking it as more metaphor or part of narration that I want to keep like that way. But of course, it will be voila.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Saâdane. Can I ask you, before there will be some other questions, I'm sure, but how much is gravity related to the way you work, which at some points it seems that it's very much out of your hands, especially when you commissioned the Thomas de Klerk play. This was quite a surprising, I imagine, development that he introduced into the kind of interiority of your practice. Do you think gravity as something which affects us all, but which, um, we don't always recognize as such, is part of that kind of very difficult way of working that often you encounter, where the work is literally a surprise and out of your hands, as I was putting it.
I don't know exactly where you want to go for that, but I mean, like, I think I'm a bit naive, and I like this naivety. I'm naive. I mean, the really, I'm a bit universalist, which is completely stupid today to say that, probably. But I have an idea of sharing things with other humans on this planet, at least the way we're facing death, if we're talking about suicide right now, the way we're facing these kind of things in our own personal life, but which is things I can share with all the people on this planet, whatever they are. And I have every time this kind of utopia or less like this kind of desire that I can embrace more than only one specific singular little topic. So if you look the way I managed this Bergen assembly, this magazine, which was full of different kind of point of view, but leading to the same point, but with a lot of different kind of, it was rich of its diversity, this project, rich of this, but with the gravity for me again, probably I'm really a naive, but the gravity is something as well to gather a maximum possible of point of view around one topic and not being in one very singular self small topic, but having something embracing like a large possibilities of uh, dialogue, I say, dialogue with other, or to encapsulate a large dialogue, which is using this. But as well, again, this gravity thing is as well for me extremely metaphorical. It's my feeling about the world today. It's this weightness, this weight. Things are present today, like they are. When when I did this thing with the, I show you just before the lecture, this thing, this copy of Jeff Koons. This Jeff Koons of the 80s, when the world was extremely happy. Me, I'm coming from I was 10 when he was making that. I was 10 years old, and he was making that. Donald Trump just built his tower 6 months before. Jeff Koons put this in the new museum, the new vacuum. And at that time, Thatcher and Reagan will arrive on the power, and they open this field for the Western people, not for the older world. But with this idea of the world will be open, the world would be. They were like, and after a few years after the wall of Berlin, where I'm living now, fall, and so we were on this kind of happy, uh, like this kind of things. Like for instance, Jeff Koons never fall down from his little cloud of happiness and beautifulness of gift and geschenk and receiving things of childhood and blah, blah, blah. But for me today, I feel really the weight of the world, things present. So I look back through artworks where the things are visible in artwork, where this weight is visible, and I can find it in a lot of different kind of practice. So it means I can gather a lot of different kind of things that probably you cannot put on the same exhibition today for different kind of reason. Through that, you can probably, well, this is naive. This is what I call my naivety, and I think I'm naive. But I'm an artist. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to lead people. I'm not. I humbly make my work the way I can do it, and after I hope this work can have a kind of open a kind of dialogue of reflection on what's surrounding us. But it's not something to follow. I mean, I don't think so.
Hmm. Are there any questions? Thank you, Saâdane. I'll give people a second to anything. Kate? Patrick Anderson, please, Patrick, a friend from Vancouver.
It's very early in Vancouver, so I'm sitting in bed. Sorry. Um, yeah, I don't know how to approach. There's a lot going on here. Um, um, Being interested in Duchamp, of course, it was particularly. Uh, Interesting to think about gravity, I guess, because it's situated between intention and expression in this kind of gray area.
Mm.
Um, and I liked, this public square situation you started off with, as it reminded me of uh, how in a different kind of public square that we call modern art, Duchamp dragged a bunch of geometrical shapes into it too, at one point. And so that made me think, like, I guess you set me off on that path in my brain. And so, and your 7 characters, um, of course, remind me of some bachelors of the past, but they're now reconfigured. So all these things are fairly straightforward. But I was interested in the 3 Yasmines and how you think about those. Um, because I think of again Duchamp 3 standard stoppages. These the kind of the authority of Yasmine that you set up through a kind of historiography, or and then you have you have 3 different kinds of. You have a fictional Yasmine, and then you have Yasmine the collaborator. So I was kind of curious about those 3, like this collaborator. If you see this collaborator as a kind of, I don't know how to formulate this, but it seems like you're setting up a way to, you've created a kind of bachelor machine, if you will, or a kind of machine to keep producing endless um, confrontations with both authority and opposition. So I don't know how to formulate this, but it seems there's been these kind of things before, of course, with Anne Lee. I think of Perino and artists like that, or various kind of relational projects. But I'm kind of curious, like how yours is different, like what it is that maybe this is kind of where maybe I know you don't want to position yourself politically in it, but how is your third position, if you will, this kind of seriality of letting these new narratives unfold. How do you see how do you see it coming out different somehow from all these other projects?
I like the question, and I understand as well the hesitation in the question, because probably it's a reflect of my own hesitation. But I always present Yasmine as half fictional person or half real character. That's already say something, I think, on the. She probably pull or draw a reality from myself, but in the fiction, she's building completely other things as well. So this is where art is, in my opinion, like where the art can, and probably this is where we cannot, or the poetry, let's say, of the things. Maybe there are a bit of poetry beyond that, and probably that where more we're trying to name what is beyond this poetry, more we will destroy it as well.
Mm.
For instance, the fantastic Anli project was extremely well identified. There were this shell, ghost, they call it ghost, empty shell, like of Anli, given to different kind of artists, and they did. It's one of project, of course, I really am impressed by. Yeah, it's not as well really identify what you can do with Yasmine though. Of course, I'm behind. Sometimes I'm thinking, yeah, it could be shared with, which is interesting as well, with different kind of discipline as well, probably not only artists. Maybe this Yasmine though can be shared with a thinker, with a more serious curator than I am. With I don't know, like that's. But I don't know right now. I don't know how she will develop herself through the Gravity project. It's still ongoing, all this thing. I can read you because of course she had to present herself a few times when she was, and I can read you like we call short CV, like the short that we put on magazine when she got interviews or things like that, you know. So it's Yasmine Do is a curator based in Berlin. So we know that she's living here somewhere already. Questioning the identity information, like in development, would say, as opposed in inherited identities. She prefers the harvest to the roots. So, bon, let's say something as well. That's, yeah, yeah, that's her position, I mean. Huh? In her work, she explores alternative narratives and using a transdisciplinary approach to fiction, she is concerned with the migration of ideas, hybridizations and mutation, and mythologies to the constructed self. Voilà, this is the way she's a bit, you know, it's the way she's present herself when she has to. I mean, I'm not so sure of that, but I mean, yeah. So this is as well, again, this is an artwork. Who can say that? I mean, it's difficult to say something today because everything, the relation to the truth and the relation to the real is really, really strange today. But I think art is still a territory of experimentation where the things could, it's not that they are fake, but could not fit exactly a category of something. They can be a bit, you know, we don't know. They can be, yeah, they are not have to say exactly what they are. They can stay in the position of the balance when you have to answer to a question, for instance. In this, I think so. But yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't want to interpret, but you know, what I see as different in your project is that the free fall is much wider. It's a much more open field of viewership of participants. I don't know, than those other more closed systems. But anyway, thank you.
No, thank you to you. Thanks for your question, dear.
Is there another question? Just following up on that, I mean, the question of curating, which kind of emerged in your presentation as kind of a high point, is also kind of dilution at its maximum as well, I suppose. Do you think of it that way, Saâdane?
It's weird because the Saâdane Afif, the artist, is signing everything. It's like even over signing when I'm working in what we call collaboration or when I'm commissioning works, I'm signing with the commissioner people and when when I integrate the work of other in my own work, this is me signing the work. It's not something. It's quite clear. But at that point, it's very clear. In the development of such a project like Bergen Assembly, that was a very good moment as well to I don't know how to say that. It's a bit like DNA, you know. Like I don't know. You can give a form to something, but you don't know exactly. I don't know exactly how it would be at the end, which is this when I commissioned the text, the theater play to Thomas Clare, my attention are extremely clear. The way I commission the things are clear, but what it will be at the end, I have no idea. The only thing I know that I trying to make the commission clear enough, or to put the DNA clear enough on this, that I know that whatever I will have, it could work. Except if it's, I don't know, fascist things. We never know that. But usually the people I'm working with, it's after a conversation, agreement, these things. But yeah, this I don't know. It's all this project as well are researches. I mean, there are no. It's weird to say there are no truth on it. But what I want to mean is, it's not. I'm not trying to. I'm researching myself through that. I'm questioning. When I was talking about my human being, I'm questioning that as well through that works, that development of works. It's not something like. It's like when I'm making the performance in Marrakech, I don't know that I will be in Bergen nearly 8 years after. I have no idea of that. But when I have the idea of asking for the text for the theater play, I know that here I'm launching a process that can be after read as a score. If I pay attention to what will happen after that, if I read that well around me, I can use that as a score, and that's exactly what's happened. When they asked me to make Bergen Assembly, I didn't think about, at first, I didn't think about the play. I had it under my elbow, and I was already working on it for other things. I didn't make the collage immediately. It took me at least 3 months. But yes, of course, I have this, because I read it well, and it's becoming Bergen Assembly, and it's becoming something completely different. Where in the beginning it should have been me, but no, it was not me. It was completely other things. But finally, there are this thing inside that I'm quite proud to have been able to implement.
Well, do you feel like a responsibility then to the Bergen Assembly and to the alter ego Yasmine Do, if you are to continue or do another curatorial project, or I mean, even if you don't do a curatorial project, what is the weight and the future of that um, collaboration right now? Or is it unsettled or ambiguous?
I don't know, because like I need a specific context to work with Yasmine Do. It's it needs a very specific context. It needs first and second, the problem with Yasmine Do, I don't know why, but when I'm working with her, it's double work for me. So now I'm thinking 2 times before involving Yasmine Do if I don't have uh, a good context, like people know that, yeah.
You showed briefly the works of coal miners from Bergen. Um, did you just discover those works when you were in Bergen?
No, no. For instance, that's one of the. That's why I re-employed this work after Bergen, because that was something I was already working on before Bergen asked me to make something. It was after Yasmine Do. The first character I starting to study was the coalman at the
Mm.
coal merchant or coalman. Or we don't know if it's a coalman, if it's the guys at the mine or what. And I was wondering, okay, what I can do with that. So in the beginning, every time a bit illustrative. I'm thinking more by relation and a bit illustrative. I say, okay, maybe this Coleman can be a sculptor. So maybe I can make some sculpture, an exhibition of sculpture made out of coal. So I was thinking about there my reflection about this character and how to give life to this character as an exhibition. Really, like what I told you now is really like the recipe from the inside. I mean, like some things I won't probably say, but it was really something like that. And make my research, so coal sculpture, and I bump into this incredible sculpture of coal as a coal face, like a coal man with at the coal face with a pick, you know, really naive sculpture, like really like made out of coal. And I said, wow, what is that? I bought it because I found it on it was on the market. I bought it, and then I discover this phenomena that I have no idea of that now survive a lot in Poland, but apparently it was all over Europe. And there are a lot as well in South Asia, I think, and in China, some. That some cool man becomes sculptor and develop, makes, it's very beautiful, the self-representation of them, of the community of coal community, coal made out of coal, made inside coal. That's very, very beautiful. So I start to make a collection. And now I have 200 pieces, something. And so a bit like the Yasmine Do portrait I did, like the exhibition about Yasmine Wezan, the exhibition about the life of Yasmine Wezan, which is an exhibition exhibited. With Yasmine Do, we work on the curatorial presentation and exhibition presentation of my collection, which become a work for Saâdane Afif, an artwork, but as well an artwork we have a form of as much as scientific as possible exhibition about the coalman, the Polish coalman, and their sculpture. So it's I don't know if you have seen a picture of that, but it's a display of hundreds of this sculpture with text, with we try to find provenance very precisely. We, really like it's a real exhibition as much scientific as we can do, but as well the form of the exhibition for me become an artwork. Is that clear? That or yeah?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Is it? Oh, Mark Neufeld. A question. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, very well.
Hello, Saâdane.
Hello.
Thanks for the talk.
You're welcome.
I first encountered your work, actually, I realized now a long time ago at Documenta 12, with the electric guitar and maybe some text on the wall. And I wonder if you could, if there's some kind of connection between that older work and your newer work and what that connection might be.
The text are the connection, a direct connection. I mean, I have this weird idea, like in 2004, a year after I arrived in Berlin, I have been invited for a small exhibition in Essen, in Folkwang Museum, which is an important museum. It was very like a side exhibition, young artists, that they give you like a booth and not so much budget, just because your name probably is a bit like, well, whatever, it's normal. But me at that time, I had few concerns. One, I starting to be a bit fed up. It was a bit more than the beginning of, it was 10 years after the serious beginning of internet, but for sure the copy paste of text was there already. Like, it was not artificial intelligence, but the text I was writing when I was student, which was being not to a gallery, and after journalists and people starting to copy paste this text and become absolutely nothing at the end, and you don't understand what it is about anymore. But people, so that was something I was annoyed by. And as a young artist, starting to have a bit of success, I feel, of course, by some of the other friends, we were at school and things like that, I was a bit more successful, and I moved as well from my country to another. So I broke a kind of links, even if I still have some good friends from that time, but some, of course. So, and I starting to feel quite isolated, because as well, the professional relation to the art world is isolation, in my opinion, but probably all professional relations are like that. I mean, not only the art world, but there are something like that. And so I was 34 at the time, starting to what I do, what I can do, and things like that. And I had this little invitation with a curator who was a bit not so well. I tried to get new work because as a young artist, my interest was to produce new work, but say no, 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 no. You get some money from the French government. I don't know. Well, but at the end, I convinced him that I need to make an experiment because I want to make an experiment. And I was on this mindset. And I have a very close friend. Her name is Lily Renaud-Dewar, which is an artist very important now. And I asked her, I knew her for a long time, and I knew that she liked writing. And so I say, okay, I will ask her to write songs about what I will show on this. It was an experience. Huh? So I show 4 works, and I ask her for 4 songs. And to do that, I create a commission that where I was explaining her what I want to do, what are these those work, etc., etc. And I ask her to react by what I say and the form of the work. So she sent me 4 texts that I set as an explanation text on a wall, but was a poetic form, so not explaining anything, but vibrating, like 2 poetic form vibrating. And I discover immediately that the potentiality of this. So after I repeat a lot this gesture, a lot, I published a book in 2018, so already like 8 years ago nearly. I have, I think, 110 authors and 150 texts on it. That it's a book with only text like that. What was super interesting for me that it was quite simple. It was, I say things. She's not starting from a white blank page. Right? She's starting from what I say. But of course, it was full of her imaginary. So I find a way first to struggle against this isolation I was feeling, a loneliness. I find a way to include the other in the practice, in the work itself, and it's not something tautologic speaking about itself, blah, blah, the artist speak. No, because it's come with the imaginary of someone else. And so it's really hybriding something. And that was the first point I understood something. The second point is, after I starting to have reflection about Duchamp, at that time was not, but because different kind of things, bon, I get into Duchamp, bon, whatever. But when he said, like, this is the viewer who is making the pictures, these songs, which are not so, they are giving, there can be a representation of what's happened in the mind of the viewer when he's making the picture. You can read it from the songs. You can read part of the works made by the artist, but you can read the way the imaginary of the author. So since that moment, I started to commission for each work, not 1 song, but 10 songs based on 1 work. That means it's creating a cloud of meaning around the work, not explaining, but creating something. Like, for instance, the exhibition I'm showing there on Bergen, I have 5 different works. So they all have their own corpus of text, more or less 10 each, that are installed in the wall. It's creating an horizon of meaning all around the work, everywhere. The work are very different, but this process is englobing everything. and creating an horizon of meaning for each of these texts. Each of its work has this horizon of meaning. And this saying something, it's a bit like modeling the meaning around the work. It's not exactly. And so what's in Documentum, I was already doing that for a few years, not that much. I had, but already maybe 20, maybe 50 texts. I don't remember at that time. And my idea was to show this guitar playing alone, like creating some different kind of monochords, like this kind of association of 3-4 chords, which we recognize every time in hits. So they were playing different kind of monochords like that, a bit random, if I do remember well. And the idea was to have those texts as if they could play any kind of interpretation of that. It was a bit basic. But more, of course, I was not able to show more than 3 or 4 texts when I had this idea of Documenta showing 100 of texts, like, of course, relation with the curator, blah, 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 but whatever. But at the end, the relation between this work and after, of course, mainly those texts will become the structure of the work. And that's why it was so easy for me to commission a theater play out of this performance. It's only because I experimented that before that it was easy for me to think, but why not a play based on this performance, and the play becomes something else. Because when I get this first text by Lily, the second thing I thought after, that's interesting what's happened, is how to embody those texts. Because of course a text like that, a poetry need to be embodied. So the basic thing is to read it loud, but after you can give it to musician, there are a lot of possibilities. And I starting to develop some performance. I mean, to stage some performance, and I'm not making myself, but it's because of that. Otherwise, I've never made a performance before. But because of that, I starting to think about performance, that making poster, announcing performance, and etc. So it's creating series inside the work. And probably that's why after I was able to think in Marrakech about a performance which were disconnected to this system in a way, but because of this experience, I was able to think. So this is the way probably the brain works in a way of at least but the text was a bit long answer maybe for such a simple thing.
Yeah, it's okay. Like I have a follow-up question, but I don't know if there's time.
Why don't you? Yes, please, Mark.
Yeah, I'm just like, so Saâdane, like we're familiar with this kind of like, I call it like outsourcing, this kind of outsourcing for some time now. And I wonder just, I mean, you mentioned universalism before, your sort of political thoughts, but I wonder if there's a new way of thinking about this for you in your work, this idea of the outsourced project in the current kind of problematics of production in the world.
What you mean by outsourcing? That working with others out of me? That's it. That's what
Yeah, like you generate like a small idea, and then you pass it off to others, and it expands and it grows. And I think of like, go.
Well, first, I have to say that, and this is very important. I don't know if the student around us, something like that, but I mean, it's very important that when you make such a thing, when you outsource your work or your project, for instance, when I'm commission a text to someone else, which is the elementary way of outsourcing something, but there are other. There are every time a contract, and everything is said at first that the work, this would become a work, this would be presented in a museum, you sign a contract, you be paid, etc., etc. They are never, it's never, oh, let's make something all together, I have an idea, maybe we try to, no, it's not like that. It's not like, that's important to say that because it's not, And I develop a lot of work with know-how. Sorry, I have just a minute. Battery problem.
Okay.
I'm back. Sorry for that.
The impact was after the fact. Sorry, Saâdane.
And just continue to outsourcing. I'm working a lot with know-how, like except other know-how. You know, I work with
Yes.
Nymphenburg. I work with African craftsmen, artists, make coffin, for instance. But every time I'm working with this kind of specific know-how, it's because as well of the meaning it's bringing to the work, and the name of the people involved are every time belonging to the work itself, belonging to the caption, belonging to the work, belonging.
Mm.
So this is extremely important. I mean, this is something I every time. For instance, the text of the song, the lyrics. When you see a lyrics installed in an exhibition, there are every time the name of the authors on it. It's never that because it's important. It's part of the history of the. It's part of what I'm trying to show as well. Like I'm showing as well this relation. I'm showing as well. Sometimes it's contractual relation, and sometimes just okay, I work. But when I decided to work with Nymphenburg, a Barocco porcelain makers from the 7th century, which is one of the most I won't say shishi, but really like German porcelain things. And I wanted to work about the portrait of a performer singing, and during she's singing, we made a portrait with this Baroque things. It was perfectly fitting the project on the ID. So it's like, yeah, it's every time, and every time as well the name. Yeah, again, yeah, it's this outsourcing is extremely precise, because I do remember when I was student, some people going in Tunisia, arriving because they got this best painter of at the time they got this best painter of cinema or thing like that, and the guys asked them to make something for them, and you're coming back in Europe showing that in gallery with no names, nothing, you know, and just to have this kind of touch, which is very beautiful and particular, and that's it. This is completely the opposite of the way I'm working, and because I'm showing as well most of the time the relation inside this contractual, because it's contractual relation I'm producing to build the work. Yeah, I'm trying to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Great. We've kept you for a long time, Saâdane. I like it. And fantastic questions and answers. And thank you so much for your presentation, Saâdane. Thank you all for joining us today as well.
Thanks for your invitation, Shep. Really, I'm very happy. I hope I can come back in a year with something about gravity, maybe.